I'm going to preface this with 70% of veterans, okay, of the 18, 17 million veterans, whatever the number is, 70% are not service connected for VA disability compensation. And for those of you, the 30%, you know that that is a very high number because of just the vast array of different conditions that you could be rated for. Not saying everybody's going to be a 30, a 50, a 70, 100%. I'm saying there's probably a lot of zeros and 10% and 20% people out there that never did it. So I say that because that's who we need to get this information in front of. For me, what I wish I would have known getting out of the military is the vast, and I know this is just so umbrella and wide, but I'll segment one out of it. I wish that they did, and now I got out this, I think this part's important, and I'd love to see comments on what it looks like today. And Chris probably has a little bit of that flavor right now because of where he's at with SkillBridge. When I got out of the Marine Corps in '97, there wasn't much. I don't even really recall like TAP or anything like that. I recall going to a couple things and getting some check boxes, and they let me go get a PowerPoint and Excel and Word class, and I went to a job fair. That was basically it, an on-base job fair, and good luck, have a great one. Not really conducive to setting somebody up for success walking out the gate. And I truly wish that there was somebody who I could just go sit with, even if I didn't want to, because you don't really want to. That's the weird thing. In your mind, you're like, I'm good, I'm getting out. But be almost forced to sit down one-on-one with somebody for a couple hours and just talk it through. Here's all of the different types of benefits that are available for you, what they look like, how you access them. It is really, I think, an important piece. For me specifically, VA disability compensation would have been a fantastic one up front because it opens up so many other doors and awareness that, and I know that that's like the big one, right? The disability compensation thing. And you guys, if you say it too, that's cool. But for me, having that little bit of extra money, because I'm losing BAH as I get out, I'm taking a step down in my job because nobody knows what the hell I did as a mortarman. So off I go. And that would have been a tremendous help, having a little bit of disability compensation and some awareness of different benefits that opened up because of that, i.e. VRE, Veterans Readiness and Employment. So those are a couple of the big things and kind of the overview for me personally. And like you said, Randy, we'll do the round robin and then we'll dive in a little bit deeper on some of those if we have some time. So with that, I'll kick it over to Chris. With the person that you wish that you had a little bit of time with regarding your transition.
Yeah, I think, and to make this useful for people who are in the transition or recently transitioned, right? I look at three people, right? I would want a mentor in each category. Number one is educational. There are amazing educational benefits out there that are very widespread, right? I run the SkillBridge program. I call it the ounce of prevention. I'm going to get you trained up before you get out. What normally happens, you get out, you got your sea bag, your DDG-14, you're at a bus stop somewhere waiting to catch a plane back to Paducah, Kentucky, or wherever you came from. Then you go to your parents' basement, you play video games, you drink your dad's beer. If you have a parent that has a basement. So I want an educational mentor. Where can I go and get the education and really the skills that I need? When I say skills, I'm talking competency-based credentials that will make me a welder, a political scientist, a cybersecurity person, whatever it is that I want to do, right? And it's not about, a lot of people just waver and are indecisive about what you're going to do. Like the hardest question I had to answer as a retired Marine, I mean, I got a retirement check coming, so it was different, but what do I want to do? Really hard to answer. Second, so educational. Second, I want a financial mentor. I want a financial coach. There are all kinds of great tax breaks. There are advantages of living in different states. There are a lot of benefits to being a veteran, a lot of discounts, a lot of things that can make your life a little bit easier. So managing money, investing money properly, being able to use a VA loan, for example, to get a home, that financial person. And lastly, really important is the camaraderie part, right? I want somebody who, and this goes to mental health. This goes to our spiritual well-being, our fellowship. It goes to our culture. I can't talk about shooting a small rocket with anybody else besides those people who know what that feels like. I can't talk about, leaving the perimeter, test firing my weapons and leaving a perimeter to go out on patrol, unless I'm talking to people who knows what that feels like. So here in San Francisco, there are groups that go on hikes. They do these really cool things. And so recently I've gotten into those, but here I am like 9 years after, and I'm finding out about things. So I would like an educational, financial, and a camaraderie person, 3 different people that really know what they're talking about in that arena, giving me some advice.
I think those are awesome examples. I liked your vignette about an ounce of prevention. And so the person that I wish I knew is kind of in that same vein. And even though it seems like you're fast forwarding in your career, I'll explain a little bit more. So the person that I wish I knew when I was a young, pilot in the Navy and then subsequent in the Guard is a VSO, a veteran service officer. And you might think, well, Randy, those people help you after you get out of the military. They're there to help you file your VA claim. Why would you want to know a VSO when you've only been in for a year or 2 years or 3 years? And to Chris Starling's point, an ounce of prevention, right? A VSO isn't limited to only talking to veterans, only talking to people that have transitioned out. It's perfectly fine to talk to a VSO every year or two. Pick up the phone, have a call with them for 15, 20, 30 minutes. Talk a little bit about what's happened in your career, what's happened in your training, maybe some bumps and bruises you got along the way. They're going to be able to give you advice. Things like, retain paper copies of your medical records because these digital copies tend to get lost. Document things and, keep them available for future use. Remember, documentation on things like your assessment before you take a physical fitness test can be used for supporting a claim later. VSOs are a wealth of information. So I didn't really learn about them until I had left the military and I utilized one to assist with my claim. But being proactive and knowing that everybody leaves the military. There's not a single person that goes into the military that doesn't leave in some form or fashion. So you need to be prepared for that date. And one of the people that can help you with that is a VSO. Remember, these are folks that aren't necessarily paid by you. There's plenty of VSOs that are state employees, that are county employees. Some of them work for the VFW or the American Legion. So there's veteran service organizations that you can reach out to. But really, they're designed and they're trained to help you gather information and support your claim. And that dovetails with what Jason just said. Having that, sort of claim filed, having that little bit of support as you make a really big transition in your life is important. They're going to help you with everything downstream after that. It's going to be years in the future if an appeal is necessary or whatever it may be. But for the younger folks watching this video, I would suggest picking up the phone or stopping by a VSO office every, year or two. Take a half hour out of your day, take some notes and just tell them a little bit about what's happened with your career, you personally, and just let them know you're looking to the future and you want to make that day where you move into the Department of Veterans Affairs from the Department of Defense as smooth as possible. I wish I knew that person, and so that's mine. Jason, I'm going to throw it back to you to kind of continue the dialogue.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as we're looking at this, the big piece here is that those people exist, right? We just didn't know to seek them out. They're not going to come seek you out 90% of the time, right? Now, I, in my prior life, would go speak at TAPS classes and be that person reaching out, but not every organization has the bandwidth to be proactive in that way. So therefore, we, as the transitioning service member or veteran or reservist, need to be proactive in that sense. So these people do exist. These people that we're talking about that we wish that we knew, they do exist. in one shape, or fashion or what have you. So we need to reach out and try to find them. I love that you said the veteran service officer. Oftentimes, veteran service officer, although they may not provide everything like Chris was saying, they're not the subject matter expert on it all, but they might be the hub in that network, in that community, county, geographic region, what have you, so they'll know who to point you to, right? Oh, you want to do something in this realm for employment? Well, then we need to get you over to NPower. Here's the subject matter experts over at NPower regarding that technology aspect that you want to segue into, or whatever the case may be. So with that, I think that the important lesson here is that don't sit on your hands, be proactive, and really force those relationships. Here's the thing. We are stagnant if we're not pushing ourselves a little bit, right? If you're not uncomfortable, a little bit nervous, a little bit like, man, I really don't want to reach out to this person or go talk to this person that I've never talked to before. It's what they're there for typically. And you're not going to grow if you don't put yourself out there. I'd love to hear, some examples. I'm just double tapping on Randy's VSO aspect. But there's so many resources nowadays versus 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. YouTube is a huge one. I mean, you can have conversations, other people can chime in, you can have comments in there. There's a ton of different forums and stuff on the internet. I'm a fan of in-person stuff, right? But sometimes that's how you can find it, right? Is from the internet into your local space, then bam, you're there. So right. I'm going to kick it back to you, Randy. Give us a couple examples. We'll roll down to Chris for some examples on how people can really make this happen for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that came to mind, Jason, is recruiters. Now, you have to be a little bit careful with recruiters. There are good recruiters and there are not so good recruiters. I like to think, because I'm an optimist, that the majority of them are well-intentioned and do a pretty good job. But a recruiter is going to offer you a couple things. One of them is to help the transitioning service member dress up their resume, make sure they're highlighting certain experiences, education that they may have received, help them identify companies that they may want to target in their search, or, even more broader perspective, industries that they might want to be in. But the thing that a recruiter is going to be able to do for you, if you pick a good one and you need to do your research ahead of time, is their network. Recruiters are very, very well networked individuals. So, the whole theme of this is the person that I wish I knew before I got out. A good recruiter is somebody to know well in advance. And so not a month ahead of time, not 2 weeks ahead of time. Honestly, I would start engaging with these folks 9 months to a year before you know that you're going to exit the military. That way you can start with the basics, getting LinkedIn up to date, getting your resume up to date, making sure that any supporting documentation from training that you've had along the way is necessary and collected. Letters of recommendation, those always help. They almost never hurt. So going to, former supervisors, commanding officers, whatever it may be that you did a great job for, and they're willing to say a few words, get it down on paper, gathering all that stuff. And then you can go to the recruiter, discuss, I want to live in New England, I want to work in manufacturing, and I want, whatever it may be. And you can, start having those people help you and narrow in. So, that's kind of the person that, I would also throw out there that's worth knowing before you get out. And then remember, the power in the recruiter isn't them placing your resume, in front of you and saying good luck. It's their network. Leverage their network. So I'm going to throw it over to Chris Starling, let you take a hack at this question and hear what you have to say.
Great discussion. Okay, number one, I'm going to advertise somebody here. His name is Kevin Bottino. And he has a company called Collab Resume. And you can look him up, Kevin Bottino, COLLAB Resume. And that's what I use for my NPower students. And I constantly get back, these are the best resumes we've ever seen. He takes one-on-one time to work on this with people. That's a guy I wish I had known ahead of time, because how are you going to take 26 years of military service and then civilianize it? It's a really hard thing to do. The other thing I'll say is I was blessed with two really good VSOs. When I got out, leaving the Pentagon, a guy came up to me and goes, "Hey, don't just leave it to chance. Go see this guy at Fort Belvoir. He really, really knows what he's doing." And he gave me the name and the number. And so I called the guy and I got an appointment. You can leave it up to chance where you go, but if you can get recommendations, just like if you bring a plumber or an electrician into your house, you're probably going to check Angie's or whatever. They don't really have that. And not all VSOs are equal necessarily, but I had a fantastic guy. And when I first got out at Fort Belvoir, and then I was in San Francisco. And again, I didn't listen to this podcast because it didn't exist, 8-9 years ago. I didn't have this. Only years later, when the PACT Act came out, is when I went back to the VA, right? I had a disability rating, but this guy looked, he goes, "Oh my God, the PACT Act thing covers all these other things that have happened," right? And it was actually Jason who got me into, "Hey, if you haven't done your PACT Act, you go in there." He gave me a little nudge, right? So I did it, and it was really a great move. So Jason, you're the guy I wish I knew. Anyway, but when I got to San Francisco VA, an amazing VSO, looked over my things, highlighted everything that was PACT Act related, sent it off, said, "Here's your appointments. They're in Fremont, California. Don't be late. Don't miss them. Get it done." And he was amazingly squared away. And it made a huge difference for me, right? That I didn't even know that I rated at all. So pick the VSO and then a collab resume, having a good, strong resume. And you're totally right. Getting early with recruiters or where you might want to work, see where your buddies went and who's got a good quality of life and enjoying it.